Matt should be along shortly, so I'm going to call our meeting to order. We have people remoting in, so we're going to open the session by roll call, starting with Brittany,
Here.
Ed,
Here.
Dan, here, and Bruce is here. All right, so with us tonight, we have our new town planner. A lot of you were at the Tuesday joint meeting, so you got a quick peek at her while she was attending that meeting, but I wanted to give her the opportunity to kind of introduce herself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Bruce. Hi, members of the trust. Thank you for having me this evening. Looking forward to working with you all closely going forward, particularly with the housing production plan and all things affordable housing. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or need anything. Definitely looking to have a strong collaboration with my department and you all. And yeah, I'm excited to meet you and move forward on all things all things affordable housing. And yeah, no, again, just please feel free to reach out, and I'm very accessible. And if you need my contact information, Bruce can provide it, or I can give it to you directly. But looking forward to working with you. Thanks very much.
Also with us tonight, which Ed, I think you were with us the last time we went through the housing production plan, is Karen Sortenberg, who's with us this evening. We have the agreement. It came back from Kathleen today. Karen, I think I saw on the email chain that you were okay with the
Yep.
the agreement. So
That's
everybody
right.
should have a recent copy of it in their packet. All I would need is a motion and authorization to sign. If we want to get that out of the way. I can sign it myself as long as I have authorization from you guys.
Will you take that right now?
Yeah, I want to do that before we actually start.
I'll make a motion that we authorize the chair to sign on our behalf the housing production plan. RFP.
Second.
By roll call, well, any discussion? By roll call, starting with Brittany,
Hi.
Ed,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Dan, and Bruce is an aye. Vote is unanimous. Okay, so Karen, I will get that signed and over to you tomorrow. I'll stop by the town hall.
That's great. I'll sign and get it right back to you.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
Good
So,
stuff.
Karen, just why don't you start us off for the folks that haven't gone through this process, and just give it a peek at I don't want to take too long tonight, but
Yeah.
just give a quick synopsis, and then some of the members have some things that we want to see elaborated on from the way we did this the last time.
Great.
And then also just keying in on Fiona, who is relatively new to planning in Grafton. We've invited a lot of the other boards and committees to try to take along to this process because there's a lot of valuable information for planning board and ZBA. So with that being said, why don't you take it away, and then we'll have a brief discussion afterwards.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I'm delighted to be working with you folks again and looking forward to the planning process. Today meeting is kind of a kick-off meeting to just go through the scope of services and to hear from you about any progress that has been made since the last plan that you want me to pay particular attention to. I am going to be initially focusing on updating the information, the housing needs assessment. A lot has changed since the last plan, so we'll be updating the demographic information, the economic information, housing information from a variety of resources, reaching out and also talking to some local stakeholders and updating the information to identify priority needs. After that, we will have I have the draft, I'll send it to you. You have a time to digest it. We'll have a meeting to go through that and then also talk about the first community meeting, which we will, based on the proposal, have to present the highlights, the key takeaways from the housing needs assessment. And then we can talk about this in more detail, but most likely break into small groups, specific questions to be addressed that really will lead to some important input on priority housing strategies that will then inform the next sections of the plan to be developed, the housing strategies and goals in particular. Based on your proposal and based on my proposal in turn, we're talking about trying to get this, turn this around pretty quickly, having a draft together at some point this summer. I got to my one alert is that it seems that when there are delays in the planning process, they're generally correlated with scheduling. As there are lots of local issues and competing timeframes. So, getting that community housing workshop scheduled after I and the final meetings too. Once I get a draft to you for review of the housing strategies, basically the entire draft plan, go through your comments, make some changes. We'll do another community meeting to present the draft to local leaders, residents, and then once we kind of digest those comments and make any changes, we need the planning board and the select board's sign off before we can submit it to the state. That is kind of a quick, in a nutshell, process. And I certainly, if anybody has questions about the process, it'd be great to provide those tonight.
Karen, just real quick from a logistics standpoint, do you want us setting up the schedule, or do you want to give us a tentative idea of where you need things to fit, and then we can work with staff to make sure we're making all our publications in a timely manner, making sure we're finding a time where we can get the most commitment of especially staff and residents?
Yeah. Well, we're going to want to do the first community housing workshop certainly before the summer. But I'll be able to get going on this and probably have a draft housing needs piece by the end of March. So scheduling something in April is, we want to have a meeting to go over the draft and to get your comments. But I think scheduling something in April makes sense. Now, we run up against town meeting, which is always kind of a challenge to get people to focus when town meeting is coming up. So I basically defer to you folks on what makes sense.
Okay, we'll run it by the principals that are going to be involved, and
Okay.
if we got another month and a half for you to
Yeah.
catalog information and get kind of a preliminary assessment done.
Right.
I assume you'll be working with Fiona, perhaps with Amber.
Yes. Hi, Fiona. I'll be in touch.
Perfect.
And then there are some things that we had discussed that we were trying to not a departure from the last production plan we had, but some of the comments that we've had is in the summary, and making it easily and readily accessible to people who just only want to read 2 pages of a document.
Yeah.
And get the real flavor of it. I know the people on the trust are going to digest it all because they're going to be part of the drafting process. But when we publish this and try to use it as like anchor information for when we're having a community outreach meeting for a LIP proposal or this, that, or the other thing, there's a lot of information there that's very helpful. And now that it's going to be updated to the modern census, people can get a real feel for how this is helpful, what AMI means, and a lot of the things that are a mystery to everybody when they're trying to negotiate or they're trying to understand why there's 48 units going next to them with a certain component of affordability.
Okay.
Getting waivers from a ZBA, things like that. A little bit more process oriented to make it a little bit more of a guide. And anybody else here have any questions for Karen? In the preliminary phases anyways?
I have a comment.
Please.
Karen, just feel free when we connect, after this, some of these data needs you're going to need to lean on me for assistance with. So I'll be able to help you in that regard for this first phase, and specifically looking at task 2.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
So I know we've all had a chance to go over the scope and, we went through the RP process, but does it, it's been a few weeks. Does anybody have any concerns with the scope as it stands now? Anything that you guys want to see in this or, really focused on? I mean, it's a lot easier when, when a draft is in front of us so we can kind of go through it so you get a better idea of, the direction Karen's going with it.
I think I have a pretty good idea, having been through it twice already, what the end product is going to be and what the scope is. I guess my only question, I've been trying to think about how I want to articulate it, was, in the past when we did this, I think it was 2014 and 2018 or something like that. The trust was pretty stagnant, and there wasn't a lot of affordable housing proposed in the pipeline, and we were not even close to getting it to safe harbor. But now, there are a lot of balls in the air, and there are some projects that I think just as of 6 months ago we thought were definites, were shoo-ins, and now maybe not. I know that part of your analysis in drawing up a roadmap for how Grafton can meet its goals for affordable housing is to determine what next steps ought to be to determine, what land is available, where the trust can put its assets. With all these sort of question marks in the air that we have right now about ongoing projects, how are you going to go about determining next steps for the trust? Is there going to be a sort of a plan A and a plan B if certain contingencies fall through?
Well, first of all, it's going to be really important to get input from you folks about what those balls in the air are.
Sure.
The first step is getting the information, particularly anything that has been done in the last few years with respect to affordable housing, smart growth development, that type of thing. And then what's kind of on the table right now, or even conceptually something that might happen in the future. Now, DHCD understands that when we do these, 5-year worth of annual goals, that these are best guesses, that there is going to be a lot of fluidity, and we need to still kind of come up with a plan of getting to the annual production goal limit per requirements of housing production.
Mhm.
But they understand that these are best guesses. There are no demerits for not reaching or certainly meeting those goals. But I think one of the things we want to do is to highlight progress that has been made and to really make use of those projects that potentially can come down the pike. So I'll be basically, what I think I do is I assimilate a lot of information and I rely on you for a certain amount of guidance, and we kind of put together a package that makes sense in the context of the state's requirements.
That makes sense. Okay.
So with the normal players that you would need to make sure that you collaborate with from a staff level, you're going to, of course, want to work with Fiona, who has the insight into most of the planning and developments that have gone on in the last couple of years with affordable components, plus
Right.
some of the zoning initiatives that have taken place since the last time you were here. And then I guess another good place to go would be to make sure that you meet with Katrina, perhaps, at the ZBA, so you can get an assessment of all the comprehensive permits that have gone through the ZBA in the last 5 years. What's
Yeah.
in the pipeline, and then we have our select board rep, which is Matt Often, next to me. I guess we can cycle back through you and get all the lit proposals
Sure.
that are, we do have a few lit proposals that have been approved through the select board and the trusts, and then there's a few more that are in the pipeline now. So we should be able to catalog everything pretty well.
That'll be very important. And I just want to mention that any projects that have already been permitted through 40B or have received building permits will not, we certainly want to highlight them in the plan, but they won't be counted towards housing production goals because they've already been permitted.
Yep, fair enough.
So, and then when you look at the pipeline, you need to also pay attention to when the plan's going to be done. The state is moving pretty quickly on their review process. Back when, I mean, they had 90 days and they used 90 days. You could almost count when you were to get your approval letter. But now they're moving much more quickly. But it would be a shame to get an approval on a project a week before we expected approval from the state. So we have to be a little cognizant of timing on some of these pipeline projects too.
Okay. At the very least, we can get them all cataloged anyways. Know what we're
Absolutely.
working with. I think a lot of questions and concerns we've had is, where are we at for, SHI, the needs of the town as far as the 10% is concerned for safe harbor, and, some of the nuances that go along with that, and where that goalpost is going to be moved to now that we've incorporated all the new census data.
Yeah, well, that'll come out pretty quickly, and I'll get the SHI list from DHCD. They give me an updated, full list, and work with that.
The how do you want us to collaborate with you from a trust perspective? Do you want trust members who have, because we only meet once a month. I mean, we may have a couple more meetings in between, but we have staff support now, which is Amber. Do you want us to kind of just comments or concerns or suggestions to just be filtered through her and have her be the point person for the trust because she's here every day? And gone back to you.
I go with the flow. Whatever works for you is going to work for me.
Okay. All right. I think that's probably the best from a trust perspective. So we'll send everything to Amber, and then we'll send the
That sounds
update
good.
over to Karen. So please feel free to just go directly to her and don't wait for a meeting for a suggestion. And then we'll just keep our cues as they're coming in.
Great.
So Karen, I didn't want to take too much of everybody's time with this tonight, seeing that we got a lot of work to get together. But I wanted to make sure that we got our professional services agreement out of the way, and we can start collaborating.
Yeah. I'm very excited, and we'll be moving right along now.
And I'll get with you on getting a schedule of events together.
Terrific. All right.
Brilliant.
You know how to reach me, and we'll be in touch.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for coming, Karen.
Thank you. Bye now.
All right. So I have one quick thing that I want to get out of the way so we don't forget. We had talked about Eric Swenson, who is on vacation, so he can't be here tonight as kind of our representative on the CPC. Officially, unofficially, whatever. He was looking for a reaffirmation of a vote we took a few months ago to allow him to petition for the rental services, rental assistance program he was putting together. He wants to send it to the CPC at their next meeting. So he was looking for a vote for us to, make sure he had the ability to present on our behalf in those meetings.
Do we know when their next meeting is?
You know what? I actually don't. I'm not sure if it's going to be the next one or if they have. I assume it's going to be quickly because they're going to get the grant stuff out of the way for Springtown meeting. So I really don't want to text him again and ask him that because he's on vacation. Is everybody comfortable with what he had proposed before? It's basically rental assistance in a continued program for some of the deferred rent that went on through the the pandemic, as well as providing additional assistance, moving forward for people in a jam in our community.
This is it's for like emergency,
That's right.
like temporary
Yep.
assistance, not ongoing. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's just going to pitch the idea. That's all.
Okay. So we don't need to have. He's not going to pitch like a detailed proposal that we haven't seen. Okay.
No.
Yeah. Totally.
Well, what he
fine with
proposed
that.
before is what we're doing. He just wanted to vote to do it. I said that's probably the easiest for me to just get it out of the way and then give him permission to talk to the CPC about it. So is everybody comfortable with that?
Yep.
All right. I'll accept the motion to allow Eric Swenson to petition a rental assistance or furthering the rental assistance program with the CPC.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Anybody have any discussion? If you have any modifications to what he had mentioned before, just feel free to reach out to him directly. By roll call, Brittany?
Aye.
Ed?
I
Matt?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
Bruce is an aye. That is unanimous as well. The GSX grant agreement, 1727 Upton Street, not to be confused with 9 Pine Street. I think everybody was here when we talked about this, so we really don't have to go too much further into it. I'm not going to take a guess at where it's going to go. I think we're in a holding pattern until they get their act squared away. So I will not be investing any more time in it until it gets there. I assume nobody else will be. And we'll see what shakes out and what the really, I think the ball is in the court of the select board to see what they want to do. So we're gonna have to take our cues from there. If everybody's comfortable with that, I'm just gonna leave it at that. All right, moving on.
So, hold on. So, I apologize. I missed the last meeting. Paragraph 12 was the insert that gives us whatever our right is in the event that this all falls through, right?
Right.
Okay. Can someone tell me why we're not simply getting a mortgage that can be subordinated at closing to secure the grant?
Okay, so we kind of went through this in detail at the last meeting. We weren't we needed another mechanism to make sure that the land was anchored. So at Kathleen's suggestion, we went back to GSX concerning 17 and 27 Upton Street, and to kind of rationalize why the mortgage wasn't there. They didn't want the mortgage because when they financed, they didn't, we would have to subordinate, which is something that's pretty common in these programs.
Yeah.
So in that discussion, and we didn't get all the way through it, we had negotiated assignment rights. So what they were doing with 17 and 27, or what they wanted to do, was purchase it after they got their permits, which of course is why they were never going to make it before October, and why we found out that there was missing a step and they didn't actually have a PNS in good standing. So what they were going to do is give us the assignment and all of this, the rest of the stuff that's in paragraph 12, and they were never going to purchase it unless they actually got the permits. They got the permits and then they got financing. We should be comfortable with that position because the project's moving forward, and we would be spending our money then. So, but we didn't get any further. So we stopped it as soon as the PNS was gone. So unless they're going to get a new PNS with an extended time frame, we kind of just didn't negotiate any further.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess then this is a discussion we can shelve until such time as they get their act together and they have a PNS that's viable. But, the idea that, I mean, like you said it, like, subordination for these transactions is very common, and if you're going to go to the bank and brag that, we're in partnership with the town and the community and it's going to make us look good, then certainly the bank's going to understand that we need to be secured like anybody else. Otherwise, we can just do this the same way the state did it with the library, which is go build it and we'll reimburse you when it's done. I don't think 12 gets us really where we need to be in terms of being secured, but I guess it's a discussion for another day.
Yeah, I don't think anybody at that meeting that night was comfortable with paragraph 12.
We
All right.
we weren't, but Ed, another thing that our land use attorney brought up was the fact that in these circumstances where you do have that mortgage backing, often the trust ends up so far down the list that there isn't a whole lot of recourse anyways.
I mean, it could be, but at least then you're a secured debtor. It's
Sure.
I don't know. Like I deal with these guys.
I would definitely watch that part of the conversation because her advice to us was there's no risk-free way to do this, and the mortgage may not be what you think it is. So I don't. I trust her advice because she's been down this road quite a few times. So
As have I in litigation. You know what I mean? I
get
see people's money go away all the time, and the first thing you do is get a mortgage and then talk about the rest of this stuff. But okay,
Yeah, we weren't at a point in that meeting where we were ready to sign off on it anyways.
Right.
And then mid-stroke, we're kind of suspended the back and forth. It was always under my impression, seeing that, I have spent a lot of time on this and a lot of dialogue back and forth, that the land was going to be secured. And we would get all of the assets should they decide to get up and leave. After the point where they get financing and it's going to be built, their secondary financing, I wasn't too concerned. They had demonstrated that they were going to put in the money for the soft costs, and we were going to be subsidizing that piece. So I think Pine Street kind of rattled a lot of people's cages because there's no financing there, and it's essentially the same setup. They put in a lot of their money, got it to the point where it's shovel ready, and now they're trying to find a suitor, I guess. So, but unfortunately, they need a P&S with the town. Something that's going to give them much more time than just October to try to get everything done, or their plan of attack for this isn't going to work. So, we're going to have to pick. I don't know when it's going to be picked up, and it might be just dead. So, I don't think we should do any more work on it, or spend any more money having Kathleen do any work on it until we figure out what the select board want to do with it.
yeah.
So, anybody else have anything further on that? Okay, so we have with us tonight the bylaw study committee, or a representative, Dave Robbins. Everybody should have been following kind of a back and forth between Kathleen with some pretty insightful suggestions on how to update a bylaw concerning the trusts. She had sent me something just a few hours ago that didn't make the packet, but I believe Amber had sent it to everybody. Where she kind of went through the comments that were returned from you, and I'm not sure if you have that yet.
I have Kathleen followed up, sent me with a copy to Amber and to you, Bruce, February 1st, about a week ago, with basically a follow-up response to the questions I had raised in my memo.
I think that's in the packet.
It is,
And
yeah.
yes, I saw that in the packet.
I'm mistaking one of her updates for an update. She signed off on the professional services agreement. That was today. So yours was actually done last week. So Dave, just quickly run down for the trust what you're actually doing, and anything more that you're going to need from us
Yeah,
as far
okay.
as process.
So yeah, I know you guys at your last meeting, Kathleen put together some suggestions for bylaw updates. Basically in response to the bylaw committee asking you guys for suggestions for updating your affordable housing trust bylaw. Kathleen followed up with some stuff which you guys forwarded to us. I then reviewed that and looked at looking at, well, how do I take these suggestions and incorporate them into the bylaw? And I then followed that up with a memo that I sent to you guys, regarding the bylaw and the declaration of trust and some questions. And I appreciate the time you guys have spent, you and your council to to review that. Our goal in the bylaw study committee is to, try to do as comprehensive a review as we can of the bylaws, looking at them pretty closely. And anyway, so I guess we sent you that stuff, probably more information than you ever wanted to see, but fortunately it was basically boiled down to a few questions that we had. Kathleen had responded with what she thought maybe the answers to the questions would be. So what I'd like to do is sort of just get whatever discussion we need to make sure that that you guys are all on the same page as far as to what you would like to see done to update the bylaw. I can take that and actually update the document itself, the bylaw, the actual bylaw. After which I would then the committee would then run that by you again once we've reviewed that and decided what we think the updates maybe should be. We will circulate that back through you to make sure that you're comfortable with the actual wording changes that we will ultimately be proposing.
Okay, so there's 3 more steps in this process. You want any concerns that we have with Kathleen's kind of final suggestions. You're gonna take that back to your crew. You're gonna go through it and see what you actually want, or I'm saying you as the bylaw committee want to see, and then you're gonna have us come back in to meet with the bylaw committee and go over your final edits.
Yeah. What we will do is we will we'll prepare a draft of the updated of the revised bylaw article. We'll send that to you, asking for your comments. If you want to meet to us, we certainly have. We're not going to demand that you actually meet with the committee.
Okay.
But we're going to propose we're going to send you. This is what we think the bylaw is going to look like.
Is this Springtown meeting or a fall town meeting?
That'll be fall. The actual bylaw change will be, the bylaw changes will be brought to the fall town meeting. So we got plenty of time to work on this.
Okay, perfect.
But essentially, what I'm looking for tonight is just do you agree with what Kathleen suggested as the answers to the questions are? And there's at least one point upon which she didn't really have exactly an answer to the question I asked, but for the most part, it's just to go through the questions. There's a couple of those sections that she had written down a suggestion, but she said no, that doesn't really need to be in the bylaw. There's a couple of other things where there's some bylaw wording that would be helpful. The section on governmental body, she said it doesn't need to be in the bylaw. He said that she did suggest that the bylaw should provide a quantum of vote for a town meeting to amend the bylaw and the declaration of trust. And for a lot of it, there's sort of these two parallel things: the bylaw and the declaration of trust, which kind of need to be kept in sync. So if the bylaw is amended, then it's up to the trustees, you guys, to go and amend the declaration of trust accordingly. It's up
Now,
to
do
town
we
meeting
do
to amend the
that?
bylaw.
What's the I don't know the logistics of actually changing the declaration. Is that something the trust does on its own, or is that a town meeting action?
The declaration of trust is an action, and the declaration itself spells out how you guys, the trustees, go about amending it. It's basically a vote of the trustees, and then the amendment is recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of interesting because
So would
none
you
of
be
you
then-
guys, when the trust was first established and the declaration of trust was created, none of you guys were on the trust at the time. So unless you've kind of been taking the time to dig through some of the history, that you might not have really noticed it, because it's a procedural thing. And when you're focused on trying to do something for affordable housing, you're not necessarily paying attention to some of the old mechanics and the documents that were recorded at the Register of Deeds and how a trust is somewhat different from any other town body. So there's some background there that and most of you guys are fairly new on the trust, so you've never seen this, and so I'm not surprised that you guys aren't fully up on all that stuff. And
Ed, have you ever taken a look on? I mean, you've been on for longer than I have. Have you guys ever looked at the declaration?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that was, Dave's point about how a trust is different from any other committee is well taken. I mean, it was the argument that I was using to influence members to really make sure we get the Pulte money, and it wasn't used for just anything. I mean, you really, that point, I think I really focused on when I went back to take a look at it.
Okay. Why don't we put that on our next agenda, and it might be a good, seeing that we're doing the housing production plan. Karen has a lot of experience in this world as well. Might be a good idea to have her take a look at it too. Do we have time to do that?
Yeah, plenty of time. I mean, we're basically looking at, by say May or June, we'd like to have pretty much all of the general bylaw updates nailed down.
Okay.
But between now and then, I have a draft of the trust bylaw with a draft potential update. Some of the questions here. I mean,
Well,
for the most part, I think Kathleen's suggestion has made sense to me. You guys, if you haven't already had a chance to look that over, I'd certainly welcome you to take a look at that. And the only thing that she really didn't address was one of my questions about terms of office. It's kind of vague. By law, you can't. The trustees can't serve for more than 2-year term. But in the bylaw and in the declaration of trust, it's sort of vague as to when your terms are up. And I'm thinking that generally in the town bylaws, generally we require, and this actually goes back to the charter, I think, but we require that terms be staggered so that as nearly an equal number as possible expire each year. And so the question for the trust is I could see 2 ways of doing that. And I don't know that the declaration of trust would need to be amended for this, but the bylaw should be clarified. You guys can all serve 1-year terms. That's one way to handle it. The other is you've got the select board representative and 6 others, 6 at large. We could have the bylaw say that the terms are staggered. 3 at-large terms expire each year. So that's really the one thing that I'd like to nail down. Most everything else, what Kathleen had suggested as answers to all this, kind of made sense to me. And basically I'm looking for what do you guys, how would you guys like to see the trust bylaw updated?
Well, 3 and 3 is the way to do it.
Yeah,
So,
that's my
I don't
thinking.
think we need to expand the membership at all. The select board rep is always going to be on there. So,
Yeah, so in terms of what the bylaw would say about terms of office would be that the select board rep serves a 1-year term to be, it's reappointed every year by the select board. And then the 3 at-large members are staggered 3 each year. And Kathleen here in her response to my memo didn't really express anything relative to that, but everything else, she pretty much, suggested a couple clarifications.
because if
And
we're,
a couple of things that should be added and a couple of things that don't need to be added.
going by the current, the way it's currently set up is, I'm the only one that's going to be here until next year. So everybody else's is up this year.
I think Ed.
Ed's on a 3-year term, but if you were to cut it into a 2-year term, he is also here. So statutorily speaking, he's not supposed to have a 3-year term.
Yeah.
So everybody is up in June.
Yeah, that's but that's a statutory requirement.
Which is not a
Terms
good
not
way
to
to do
exceed 2 years, and that's the way the bylaw and the declaration of trust have been written. Terms not to exceed 2 years.
Okay.
But
I feel like
the charter also requires that as nearly an equal as possible number of terms expire each year. So the charter pretty much says you got to have everybody a 1-year term or 3 and 3 2 years.
Well, we can fix that, but
Yeah.
That's up to the select board if they want to appoint for everybody for 2 years. So if we fix it in the bylaw in October, we're still gonna kind of figure out what we want to do with this year
Yeah.
when it comes up.
I think the way it's currently written, it says the terms are up to 2 years, and that's what's written in the bylaws. So it seems pretty clear to me that the solution is back to 3 and 3 is to just for one of the 4, or is it 5 or whatever,
Sure.
just appoint 1 or 2, however many you need, 1-year terms, and that'll put it back at 3 people up
Yep.
next year.
Yep.
Right.
So
My thinking is the bylaw should be clear that it's 2-year terms staggered, 3 each year. And yeah, we can, yeah. Once we put that in place in the bylaw, even before we put that in place, the bylaw, you can just work, informally, the select board, you can work with the select board to align those appointments. But that really should be a bylaw, because it is a charter requirement that terms be staggered so that as nearly equal a number as possible expire each year.
So does anybody have any comments on the feedback from Kathleen for the bylaw review committee? All right, so I'll set up with you one to one and get whatever you need from us as far as like an official document or.
Yeah, I mean, one way we could work, I think, just if you're basically comfortable with what Kathleen had suggested in her memo back to me, or to us, and with the, what I heard you express tonight as a 3 and 3 for terms, I can then take that and draft a proposed bylaw, an amended bylaw, and run that by you guys and see if you're comfortable with that.
And then I'll send everybody any email copy of the Declaration of the Trust, so we can match them up, and any modifications that do pass in October, we can make sure we amend the declarations so they fit with each other.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's a couple things in the declaration that maybe are already kind of, I don't know, when I was looking through this a couple, 3 weeks ago, it was, there's a number of items in the declaration that perhaps need clarification.
Okay.
But that's, I mean, the Declaration of Trust, that's your baby, not mine.
That's fine.
But I'm doing the bylaw, and, they don't completely have to match 1-to-1, but, Kathleen might have some suggestions for.
They overlap quite a bit in
Yeah,
this too.
there is a lot of overlap, but,
Okay.
but I'll take it, I'll take Kathleen's response that she had sent to me, and, that was included in your packet.
Is everybody comfortable with that? Do you want to vote?
At this point, it's just a sense, this is, it's still kind of informal at this point, but,
Does anybody have any concerns? Dan?
Nope.
So I have a question. With there's a couple places where she says something like something is arguably unnecessary, but perhaps bears repeating in the bylaw, like things like that, where she's not making really strong recommendation. And I'm gotten the impression that the bylaw study committee has is kind of taking the perspective of leaving things out that are redundant generally. So I guess for things like that, would you prefer to leave out things where she says something like it's arguably unnecessary, that kind of thing? Because I kind of agree with that. So with your perspective on it.
yeah,
Or you just want to hear what we think and then go from there?
What I think is, I don't want to put things in the bylaw that don't really need to be there. One of the things that the bylaw committee is doing is, we've identified a few things that, well, the charter says it, and then the bylaw repeats it. There's no need for the bylaw to repeat it. So, eliminating redundancy does two things. I don't know if it does two things. Well, two things. It makes it a little bit shorter and easier to read, but also it avoids the potential for conflicts. If the charter said one thing and now all of the bylaw, they used to say the same thing and now they say something different, that's the potential problem.
Right.
So I'm generally a fan of avoiding redundancy. I try not to work for the Department of Redundancies Department, shall we say.
Okay. Ed, did you have something?
I don't.
Okay. All right. Well, thank
So
you very much.
I'll take the feedback I've gotten, from you guys tonight and from, Kathleen's follow-up to my memo.
Okay.
And, there could very well be additional questions that come up, but that will give me enough to draft a at least a proposed update to the bylaw. And what we're doing with all the bylaws when we come up with what we think are the updates we want to see, we will be running them, all the updates, but past all the involved parties. So initially, we asked you guys for your, what do you see in the bylaw that might, in your bylaw that might need to be changed? We'll be following that up with, even if you guys didn't have any suggestions here.
Right.
If we thought there was something, we'd be saying, well, okay, here's what we think we want to do with it. What do you think?
And you're doing that in April, so we have 2 meetings in between then, so we'll see whatever draft you're carrying, so we have plenty of time
Yeah.
to make sure that.
No,
we
it's
get feedback.
basically what we're, where we're at is, as we come up with what we think are the bylaw updates that we're gonna propose, we'll be running those by all the interested parties, so, quite likely, if, I'll take what I've gotten here tonight, I'll put together a proposed update to the AHT bylaw. We'll run that by you guys for review and comment.
Great. All right, then we'll have this on our agenda for March, and we'll just leave it open. If you have something for us by then, if not, then we'll wait till the April meeting.
Yeah, it's, what I've got here is, there are a few minor things that I've done, tweaks for things like spelling and formatting
Okay.
and so on. So this sort of, this, I think, answers the questions I've had to date on that.
Okay.
So what I'll probably do is put together a proposed revision of the AHT bylaw, send that to you guys for review and comment.
Okay.
There's a good chance I'll have that done by March.
Okay. I'll just stay in touch then.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right, so we have just a quick update on the 25 Worcester Street RFP.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
just before we move on from that topic, Dan, I liked your suggestion. Does anybody on the trust have concerns about that approach with us just splitting 1 and 2 year terms for our upcoming appointments? It made sense to me.
Yeah, I mean,
Seems like a very
the
straightforward.
only way to do it, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
You gonna take that back to the select board for when we
Sure am.
if May comes around and we do all the.
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you. 25 Worcester Street RFP was published. It's going in the TNG. I believe it's going to go in the Grafton News as well. It's posted here in the Municipal Center, and MHP is got it on the state bid site as well. So it's in all the channels that it's supposed to be, and then some. We've gotten quite a few peeks at it. So interested parties will, request information and things of that nature. I believe we've had 5 people already representing companies from all over the place. The one today was, I believe, Indiana. Beacon has expressed an interest. Some of the other folks that we sent to, I don't have a list of them all here, but Amber's managing that. She's kind of coordinating our end of it, and Claire and Laura from MHP are handling the other piece of it. There's a walkthrough on the 22nd, which is open to potential bidders, and of course everybody here is invited and can be there. I think Fiona, you're going to be there.
Yep, I'll be there.
I will be there as well. It's a Wednesday morning, so hopefully it's not raining or snowing. So that's actually pretty exciting. That's actually that's a good sign, even if you only have 2 out of those. That bodes well for at least getting some positive feedback and hopefully getting a couple bids that we can go through. So it closes in March. So that first meeting in March, we'll be able to hopefully have something by that second week. But it should be exciting. Let's see. So we do have some bills that we need to pay. We have Kathleen's bill for $150, which was a review of the Declaration of Trust that she did for us, and whatever conferencing she did with the Bylaw Review Committee. And we also have a bill that's going to come due for the advertisement that went in the TNG that Amber will pay. And Unfortunately, I do not have. I'm gonna have to hold off on the invoice for the T and G because no, there it is. It's $174.20. So if everybody's comfortable with paying these invoices, I will need a vote for both together or for actually, you know what? Let's do them separately. So I'll entertain a motion to pay Kathleen O'Donnell, Trust Council, the amount of $150 for work consisting of review declaration of trust and town's bylaw for consistency and compliance with statute, proposed revisions to the trust and to the bylaw, conference with bylaw review committee, dated on February 1st, 2023.
So moved.
Any discussion?
Second.
Second.
Thank you for the second. Now, any discussion? All those in favor by roll call, Ed,
Aye.
Brittany,
Aye.
Matt,
Often I.
Dan,
Aye.
Bruce, I. We're gonna pay our attorney. Perfect. Second bill is for a publication of ads and RP material in the Telegram and Gazette, it's totaling at $174.20. This will also be going out from Amber through via the treasurer collectors. I will entertain a motion to pay this invoice as well.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? By roll call, starting with Ed,
Aye.
Brittany,
Aye.
Aye.
Dan.
Aye.
I am also an aye. We're gonna pay that bill as well. Thank you very much, everybody. We have some meeting minutes. Has everybody have a chance to review, and does anybody need to make any changes? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes of November 20th, 2016, December 1st, 2016, April 12th, 2017, August 7th, 2019, and January 12th, 2023 as drafted.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you, Amber.
Thank you, Amber, catching us up. And you, Dan. Thank you, Dan, for helping catch us up.
Welcome.
All those in favor, starting with Ed,
Aye.
Brittany,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Dan.
Aye.
Bruce is an aye.
Matt did a few as well.
Oh, you did? Well,
I
thank
did.
you,
I
Matt,
did
too.
Good
two
measure.
full meetings.
Perfect.
Had to listen to your tired commentary
Me?
hour after hour. They were like 5-hour meetings, dude, that I'm trying to transcribe. Oh, it was awful.
We were with the select board for 45 minutes.
No, we weren't. That was just a solid 20. All right. So I think that's it. All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call. Ed,
Frisbee, aye.
Brittany,
Morgan, aye.
Matt,
Matt, aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Bruce is an aye. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We'll see you next month.